Yeah, I think the beginning of my visit, there would be a number of times where I would go and see different people and they just didn't even want me there. They didn't want a visitor there. And for me, that was like hard to wrap my head around at the time. I was like, why would they not want me there?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jock here. This is the Pillars of Grief. Welcome back to another episode. I've got to watch, I've got crap on my t-shirt again. Welcome back to another episode. I have got a great episode today, and we're always talking about how do we find meaning in our grief? How do we find meaning in loss? How do we find purpose in life? And that is a conundrum, really, for a lot of people. I get a lot of questions, and so many of these questions I get in the recent series that I've been doing, where I've been answering questions about the afterlife, I've been answering questions about grief, and I've been talking about that more in depth. And so what I wanted to do today was to bring in a colleague of mine, a fellow researcher at Liverpool John Moores University, who's also doing research into bereavement and grief, and like me has great experience in this field. And so we're going to have a conversation about that. We're going to talk about purpose and meaning and his history. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Jason Tifford, one of my colleagues from university, a fellow researcher, and I'm going to bring him on. Jason, welcome to Pillars of Grief. It's great to have you, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Jock. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
No, it's obviously we haven't met face to face yet, obviously, and but we've been initially we met when we were training or doing classes with Steve Taylor way back before I even started my academic side of things, just in the spiritual psychology things, and then you popped up as a latecomer because you'd taken a year off of your research and your studies, and you came back, and it's been great because we're overlapping each other in some of our research. So let's talk a little bit about you and your history, and obviously we're going to talk about your loss as well. But this is a massive subject matter that me in my field of research and in my field of work as a medium, I get asked about meaning and purpose and everything else, and you have kind of found that. So let's talk a little bit about your history and what you do now, and a little bit of how you've got to this position in your life.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, it all kind of started when I was a senior in college. I was the president of my fraternity. I was working at a consulting company, doing management consulting, and my dream in life was to be a hedge fund manager. I just wanted to make a lot of money.
Really? You wanted to be a hedge fund? That's quite a dodgy job as well when you think about it, because it's always the hedge fund guys that end up getting the knock on the door and taken away in handcuffs.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted out of my life, And it was right around that time where my dad got sick. He got sick terminally with cancer, and that anticipatory grief really just shattered who I was at that time. And my way of coping with it was, how can I just stay as busy as possible? And very soon I learned that was not conducive to healing through grief, and not only healing through grief, but just through living life and moving forward and having a fulfilling life or purposeful life. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking about how can I just get up and make it through today. And so that experience of my dad eventually passed away 9 months later, and it was really interesting because my relationship with my dad really changed a lot in that time. At first he was much more of like this disciplinary figure in my life, but through the 9 months of him being terminally ill, we really grew a lot closer. And I would come to him in my moments of of breaking down and just coming to him and like saying like, Dad, like I don't want to lose you, I'm so scared. And he was the one who was there and comforting me, even though he was the one who was dying.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. That's so powerful. That's beautiful, actually.
Yeah. It was so like that was honest. That was I think that part of like him being able to like hold space for me was what I found moving forward as like my way. How can I honor him moving forward? And so after that experience of losing my dad, I was like, okay, there's no way. I'm not going to go to. I was working at a consulting company, planning to go to New York after college to work there. And I was like, after losing my dad, I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this. There's no way I'm going to go work a 70-hour week consulting job in New York. And just I was looking for a fresh start, so I moved down to Austin, Texas. Took a job at a event production company, worked there for a few months, but it wasn't feeding me. You know, I felt like I needed more. You know, I felt like I needed to serve. I felt like I needed to find ways to honor my dad more, and to have more. I thought there was more out of life. You know, I was like, there must be more than just this job. And so it was around that time where I started just volunteering at a hospice company, just doing visits with hospice patients, and kind of tangentially, to that, I was doing the master's program, this part-time master's program, and was visiting. I was doing my research in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I'd visit 2 to 3 patients a day, sometimes, just sitting with them, talking with them, hearing their life story, and just kind of bearing witness to their story. And
that's beautiful, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, so around that time, and please cut me off if you want. I'm giving you, this is kind of the medium version.
No, listen, you've already said a couple of things, and in my mind, I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to go back to that. That's the way it works. But no, keep talking, because I mean, you're.
It's almost
and
done.
These are things, ladies and gentlemen, I've never heard about, because essentially, you know, guys, probably we don't talk about these things. It's not. I've done so many episodes about guys and grief and how we don't talk, and so this is beautiful to hear. And exactly your path. I am going to jump back now, and we can carry this on, because I wanted, before your father passed, you mentioned, which my kind of ears pricked up a little bit more, that you kind of you just kind of swept everything under the rug, right? You didn't want to face it. There was an element of anticipatory grief that you were going through, but you didn't want to face this. What was in your mind at the time? That was it the fear? I know that you obviously we have fear of losing them, but you must have had an awareness that I'm just not facing this. I'm just putting this under the rug, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. In the beginning, that was my defense mechanism of what I knew. You know, of what I knew, how to kind of get through challenging times. Because prior to that point in my life, I had never really experienced something that intense. So that was just what I knew, you know, and that it broke me. That broke me down to the point where I realized that strategy couldn't work. It couldn't work. No. And so that's what I learned. And just to finish my story too, while doing the hospice stuff, then I got certified and trained as an end-of-life doula. Started doing some corporate like workshops and working with employees and their loved ones who are experiencing loss, and which ultimately led me to doing this research on bereaved individuals, bereaved individuals who also identify as flourishing, understanding their process of finding meaning in their experience, and also how they come to being flourishing. Because what I'm really interested in as a researcher is why do some people come to living a more fulfilling and fruitful life after experiencing a close loss? And but anyway, that's the end.
I think honestly, I think that's fascinating. I want to dive into that a lot deeper as we experience it, but I'm going to pull you back a little bit as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
because it seems that you've had a massive ontological shift. Your ontology has changed. I want to jump into your prior beliefs, and obviously, sweeping things under the rug. Psychologically, we pick that behavior up from other people in our environment, for mum, dad, friends. We pick these things up, but it seems like to me, and I know a little bit of your history in religion or spirituality, but you weren't necessarily that spiritual before. I
yeah,
get the feeling that obviously this totally changed. Your ontology changed, but what was it? What were you like before all this happened in terms of your belief system?
yeah.
Or, I mean, were you skeptical? Did you believe in an afterlife? Was it that you were your religious outlooks were primarily pushed on you by other expectations, perceptions? Let's
Yeah.
jump into that a bit.
I would say my life, my religion was like hedonism almost. And because I didn't really like these questions of like life's meaning and purpose, I didn't really think about it. I didn't have to think about it. And my going through my day to day, I was just like, okay, how can everything just be about me? How can I make as much money as possible? Um, I cared a lot more about what people thought of me. That was
Yeah.
very important to me. How can I get as many people to like me as possible? How can I make as much money as possible? How can I like these were the things that were dominating my thinking at the time. Um, and that grief, that the experience of losing my dad, really, it broke me open, and it exposed the fallacies of living your life in a way that is dependent on those hedonistic things. It's like a life that's dependent on those things is not a life that is fulfilling or worth living after experiencing something like loss. And if anything, because I did this in the beginning, at the when I was first experiencing that anticipatory grief, I was still in that lifestyle. I was still going out in the midst of these
Yeah.
things, and I felt like
Yeah.
that's when I felt the emptiest and the most broken. And
Yeah.
I remember there was a time where, like, it was a few weeks before my dad passed, and I was going out and I was like drinking, and I remember coming home and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm just like distracting myself, and it only distracts you for so long in the moment, and then it's like it comes up in ways where you can't suppress it. And that's where I was like that's where I felt the most broken, the most depressed, the most lonely, the most isolated I've ever felt in my life.
I understand the burden of grief. I understand what you go through. I have been intimately acquainted with grief all of my life. And so if you need support, then obviously you can go beyond this channel and you can join my free community. And in that community, you can find more support and you can engage with me direct. So click the link below if you would like to get access to my free community, Pillars of Grief, and I'll see you over there. God bless. What made you, let's talk a little bit about, I'm interested in this. A lot of people out there, I know what an end of life doula is, right? But there's people out there that have got no idea what an end of life doula is. And I'm interested how that experience of being with your father and having an awareness that you needed to change made you serve in the way that you did, which Jason, hats off to you. Not a lot of people can do it. To sit with people who are getting towards the end of the life. I've done it many, many, many times. I've been asked many times. I'm not an end of life doula, but on my other side of things. So I know what courage it takes. So explain to people what an end of life doula is and why you went down that path.
Yeah. I guess the easiest way to explain it, it's kind of like a secular chaplain in a way, I guess.
Yeah. That's actually a good explanation. I like that.
Yeah, but basically it's somebody who goes and meets with the dying person and just kind of sits with them and holds space for them, but they also do some other logistical things. And when I say hold space, I mean sitting with them and just talking, you know, and understanding their life and just being somebody that they can talk with. You know, we're not you're not a mental health worker, you're not a clinician, so you're not like diagnosing them, but you're just like sitting and being with them and being somebody.
Active listening.
Yeah,
You're giving them the greatest gift, and that's just to listen.
Yeah, just listening and asking questions and being somebody that they can explore those bigger questions with. So I would say that's what it is. They also do some more logistical things like ritual planning, legacy work. I know some end-of-life doulas who've helped plan living memorials. So they can help with some of those logistical things as well. But I saw it more so. My responsibility is more so as somebody who was there to support them emotionally, and just
I
let
love
them know
that
that they're not
because
alone.
what you're explaining, the whole logistics of it, to me, is not. It doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah, it's nice to talk about the rituals and stuff like that, but I think the greatest gift is you being able to listen to them, and I guess I want to also kind of poke you a little bit and say, because they must have had existential crisis, obviously, but they must have had great questions. You must have been able to speak to them philosophically.
Mm-hmm.
They must have had these massive questions that made you think. So what was the most profound thing that someone ever asked you that was going towards the end of life?
Yeah, I think the beginning, the beginning of my visits, there would be a number of times where I would go and see different people, and they just didn't even want me there. They didn't want a visitor there, and
wow.
For me, that was like hard to wrap my head around at the time. I was like, why would they not want me there? But as I was examining my behavior at the time, you know, like I'm coming in, I'm using those same tendencies of like trying to people please, trying to get them to like me. But it's like what they want is just somebody to be there and just to be with them, you know? So I think that was the most valuable thing I learned, because it taught me a lot about how to serve. And it's not about you, you know, it's about the other person. So I think that's one thing. And the other thing is when it comes to talking about their beliefs about the afterlife, or it's at the time I didn't. Yeah, I learned that at the time it wasn't my responsibility to answer their questions. You know, as the end of life.
Did you believe? I think I can't believe I'm asking it, but did you believe in an afterlife yourself, or was that something you struggled with?
Yeah, at that time I didn't really know what I believed in when it came
I get
to
it.
that.
Okay, yeah.
And so it was, but I learned that my responsibility there is to guide them in asking questions. You know, it's not to have the answer. It's to go and to help them to find the answer themselves. And which is easier when you don't know the answer, you know, it's like, I don't know, like, what do you think? And then they just continue going. So
it's kind of difficult for me because obviously when I've been with dying people, I'm coming from it from being a medium and having experience and having near-death experience. So I have to be very aware of my own bias with it as well. And when I've been speaking to people like that, I've had to be careful how I respond and have to tease things out of them to make them feel happy, because at the end of the day, no matter what religion you are or what belief system you are, we're all crossing over to the same place. And so we're all going to eventually have this. We've got the same questions. And I think, I don't know, have you read 5 Regrets of the Dying?
No.
No. We'll talk about that because now you're doing that research. I think you've experienced a lot about what I think what's her name, Bronwyn or something. I can't remember her name. A phenomenal book, great book. I think you should put that down on your list and read it, or better still, listen to it on Audible. And it'll help you with your research as well. Phenomenal book. But there's a lot of people that when they're coming to end of life, as you as a death doula, and I'm not going to use that term, but you as a support individual in the grief journey, anticipatory grief, because they're dying. It must have, they must have had regrets that they voiced to you that made you think about not only your life and even your father's life. Is that fair to say, or did that never come up?
Yeah, it's interesting. I felt like I would experience the grief of my father in different ways. Not really from those visits,
Really?
you know, more
Okay.
I think it was more so more so in moments when I was alone, you know,
Right.
versus but I think that visiting the hospice patients, I contemplated my own mortality more. It definitely, I would leave thinking more about more aware that I'm going to die, you know? And
How do you feel about that?
uh,
How do you feel about that now, Jason?
yeah, I think, well, now I think it's a bigger fear to suffer long term, like than to die for sure. Because I've seen people that have really suffered. But I think it
That
also comes.
is, you're hitting
Go ahead.
something really profound, because I'm people look at me as a medium and they say, "Oh, you don't have any fear. You know there's life after that." I'm terrified of death. Terrified. Not the crossing over, but just exactly as you said, is the process of the dying. Because, and I'm sure because you've faced this, and I'm really interested in your feeling on this. To watch someone, I hate suffering in the world. I just hate suffering. I hate anybody suffering, no matter if it's coming to their end of life or if they're just somebody on the street that can't eat or can't live or can't. It hits my heart heavy a lot, and I don't voice it a lot. So I'm interested in your feeling of this, because watching someone suffer totally changes the way that you look at things, and it does create fear.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
feel?
Well, I think it starts with understanding that death is not something that we need to be afraid of. And I think that's the start, because
Yeah.
from there, then we can start to understand, okay, how, based off of what we know about the medical system, how can we make the best choices
Mm.
for ourselves and for our loved ones.
Yeah.
And like that's a choice that each individual is makes for themselves or for their loved ones. But I mean, I've seen a lot. For instance, like my dad, he fought like up until the end, and
Really.
it got really ugly with like feeding tubes and losing a lot of weight,
Oh,
and it took a big toll on my mom, you know, because she was the one who was there sitting with him and there through every single procedure. My sister and I, we weren't there going through all that with him.
your mom
So
was.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that it starts with understanding, one, like death is not something that we should necessarily be afraid of. And two, I think it's understanding how we can understanding the medical system better, understanding the role of hospice more. I think that's really important. Um, and yeah, I think spiritual care is a big part of that too. I think that will, because the role of spiritual care is really important when it comes to helping people accept reality.
Did you ever have anyone that you were supporting that never had a spiritual foundation and found themselves confused about everything?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, most people, honestly. And
How
it's
did you
been
deal with that with someone that did have a spiritual foundation then?
yeah, in the case, so there was one woman who grew up Christian and then ended up leaving the faith for a long time, and then
Right.
towards the end of her towards the end of the end, she really started to come back. And
Wow.
but I really I saw my role just as just being present with them and actively listening and asking questions. You know, I didn't really see myself as a shepherd of the faith of a faith
Yeah.
at the time. I just saw myself as I'm just someone to be there with them, and that's really it. And so I think now if I were to visit, to take on that role now, I think it would look differently now. But at the time, that's more so how I saw it.
What about your father? Do you mind me asking about your
Yeah.
father? Did you see his ontology change as well through his journey?
That's a good question. I saw the fruits of it change. I saw the fruit.
Interesting.
I saw
Okay.
the fruits of it. I saw the way that he was around us. I saw the way that he was around my mom and our family, and just the peace that he had. That was different. But I didn't have a conversation with him about like, hey, what do you think about God? What do you think about Jesus? What do you think about? We never talked about that.
Would you have liked to have that conversation, Jason? Would you like to kind of go into the nitty-gritty with him?
I mean, at the time, I wasn't equipped to. At the time, I
Yeah,
wasn't.
I get it. Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Looking back now, do you think you would have if you had that would a conversation that you could have had?
I know one day I've been having a lot of dreams about him, so I know one day.
That's beautiful.
One day I will, but it's interesting also because I had a family friend who she was a Catholic woman, and she was like sitting with him in the final moments, and she told me that they talked about the like just believing in an afterlife, and even though it was from a different perspective, from him being Jewish and her being Catholic. But so it was great to hear that from her.
Tell me something about your father that makes you smile, that makes you laugh, that you share with people. Because I'm a great believer in sharing the moments that make us laugh with our loved ones, even though I don't believe they're gone. They're still very much alive. Just in, and I have a saying that they're just in a different room, in the next room, and we just can't go into that next room yet. But rather than saying I'm sorry for your loss and being kind of glibly spoken words,
I love that. Yeah,
I like to share. I like to hear about the funny things and what makes you smile about your father.
Yeah. He was really passionate about music. So he was a surgeon.
Wow.
But on the weekends he played in a cover band with around the area. Yeah, as a drummer.
Wow.
So
he's a drummer.
Yeah, a drummer. And he learned the drums when he was later in life, when he was 40. So he picked it up late, but got like really into it, and just like he had such a passion for music, and music as like an expression, which I really that really makes me smile about him. Also, I think
what type of music did he like then? What was his flow?
His favorite band was Rush. He loved
really?
Okay. Yeah. He loved Rush, like he liked all classic rock, but he also liked hip hop. He liked a bunch of stuff, and he was very particular about like everything. Like everything needed to
I
be.
have visions of your father. Not that I've seen him, but I have visions of your father listening to like old rock music as he's doing the surgery on someone.
Yeah, he would have a speaker.
If he could get away with it,
yeah, he would have a speaker, and
that's beautiful.
I think it was in the room where he'd get ready. But he's very particular about his things too. Everything needed to be like neat and tidy and organized, like I've never seen. And
really,
we used to, when I was really young.
Are you like that? Are you like that? No.
No. I'm more like my mom in that way.
Right.
I'm definitely particular though about, there's certain things that I'm like very particular about. But I'm not as organized. Definitely not. But and then we used to clean his car like on the weekends, and we do it by hand. So we'd like wash it, we'd spray it with water, and then like hand wash it, and then dry it and hand it, and it was everything was like so perfect and meticulous.
Well, he's a surgeon. He was a surgeon.
Yeah, yeah,
He's got to be.
yeah. And so, and I think one of the ways in which, another way in which that I try to honor him too is, I think one was music too. That's something that I really took up, when he was sick, that I really got into, and also just his discipline. You know, his discipline. He was always early for everything. Everything was always done well. And that
He
was
wasn't a
something.
soldier, was he?
No.
Because you're like and I'm sick of thinking he's military guy here. You know, this is
No,
guy
yeah, no.
like my dad was completely the opposite. Though he did
Yeah.
like to clean and stuff, but
Yeah.
that's brilliant. And so,
Yeah.
do you play music or?
Yeah. So I play guitar.
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Are you good at it?
I would say I'm an intermediate guitar player. But I go and when I was in Austin, me and my friend, we'd go to the nursing homes and we'd play there. And
Oh, that's brilliant, Jason.
and now I play with some friends up here in Connecticut.
Did you ever play with your dad? Did you ever jam with your father?
Yes, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
And with your dreams, do you dream about him musically, or is connections?
No, I would say it's more spiritually.
Right.
Yeah, I would say it's more spiritually than musically, and it's more about like asking him about his ontological beliefs and asking him about God. And so yeah, that's more so what my dreams have been about lately.
All right. Does he answer?
That's a good question. So
I know that because these are the existential questions that we ask, and of course, if you're going to come on and say, "I ask him about these things in my dream," then all right, what does he tell you? We want to know.
Yeah. So the last one I had, so this was right before. So yeah, this was a few weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, I had that conversation with that Catholic woman, asking her about the conversation she had with my dad. And maybe 3 days before that, I had this dream. I had the dream where I was asking my dad. I was like, Dad, did you meet God? Like, did you meet God?
Did you meet Jesus?
Yeah. And did you accept Jesus Christ? And he was like busy. He was like, I'll tell you later. And he smiled at me.
Yes.
And well, my mom was right there in the dream. My mom was right there, and my dad looked at me, and he looked at me. He was like, "I'll tell you later," and he like looked at me like he was like winking almost, like, "I'll tell you later." Like, your mom's
That's
right
brilliant.
here.
I love that.
And that was the whole dream.
Yeah. And I find I love how you're speaking about this, because obviously the last time we spoke, you basically said you had became Christian from your Jewish upbringing.
Yeah.
Which, so asking that question, have you found Jesus or have you met Jesus? I think that's phenomenal. It's brilliant. The very fact that he says in your dream, "I'll tell you later," and winks at you, I can't wait until you have a follow up.
Yeah.
So we need to. But listen, so I want to jump on, because you've obviously found meaning and purpose yourself, which is, let's talk a little bit about your research.
Sure.
Because this is an opportunity for anybody who's listening out there, ladies and gentlemen, that you could get involved in this exciting research that Jason is doing. You found meaning in this. You have a purpose now. So let's talk a little bit about how you found that meaning and why you have. I know you just kind of covered it a little bit about why you want to understand this connection in your research.
Yeah, I got into this research. So I took a year off. And I took a year off because, for a few different reasons, I was wanting to pursue my business at the time, and also I wasn't really clear on what I wanted to do my thesis on, and if I was going to do a full year of research, I wanted to have a reason to do it. And I wasn't even sure I was going to come back and finish the
Wow.
thesis this year. I didn't know. I was like, who knows? Maybe I could do it. Whatever, 5 years, 10 years. I didn't even know if I was going to finish it.
Well, you're young enough. You're not, you're not at my age, so I don't have much choice. I had to get on with it. I remember Dr. Richard Gallagher saying to me, "Jock, if you're really going to go down the academic route, you're 50 odds. You got to get on with it, or you'll be dead before you even have a choice." So I was like, "All right, I'll get on with it." That's how I went to Steve first.
Yeah. So for the listeners, I'm 25, so a little bit younger than Jock, but
younger. You can tell by if you're watching on YouTube, you can see he's still there.
Yeah. So I didn't want to come back and do it unless I really felt a call to do it, and then I did, and here I am. I'm coming back and finishing it up. So.
What does it mean to you? Because you've obviously found meaning in this. And I'm going to be perfectly blunt. There's not many 25-year-olds that I know have found a path the way that you have. They lose and they go through their grief journey. They're still on it. But you really have embraced grief in a huge way, which I have to commend you on. And anybody who's out there can learn a lot from you. But it's not easy. You're 25 and now you're on a path of helping people find meaning and purpose and end a life. And you've gone through so much in such a young stage. What do you say to that?
Well, I say that, I mean, I still have my struggles just like anyone else. You know, I'm worried about how am I going to provide for a family. I'm worried about what I'm going to do in my future, what that's going to look like. I'm worried about what I'm not worried about my family. My family makes me, sometimes they can increase the amount of fear that I'm already feeling. I love them. I love them to death, but I mean, just from the whole, like, and like getting baptized and becoming Christian. You know, it's just a different.
That must have been hard. Yeah, actually,
it's different. You know, and so I would say, but to answer your question, just like anyone else, you know, like I have my struggles. I mean, I miss my dad, you know. But I know that one day, I know that I'll see him again, you know, and I know that his spirit lives on in me, you know, and in my loved ones. So
I love that you use the word no, Jason. I love that you use the word no and you don't use the word belief.
Yeah.
Because I've always said belief implies a disbelief. Belief implies a perception of another person. But to know is divine.
Yeah.
I love that you know.
And I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't really know how I know, but I know.
But you're not meant to know.
Yeah,
You're not meant to know how you know.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I've often talked about how Jesus, you know, when he was healing lepers, or when you read elements of the Bible where he was able to help someone who was blind by spitting into the ground, taking the mud, turning the mud, putting it on their eyes.
Yep.
There's an element of clear cognizance there. There's an element of knowing. Not how do you know? He just knew it was divine. It was part of the animating force that ever existed. That you know, raising Lazarus, understanding, having this. I'm not going to go in too much into religion and stuff like that, but I don't think we need to know how we know. We just know because we know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anybody who's listening to that and is more confused, you can reach out and ask any questions you like. But I love the fact that you know in your heart that you're going to meet your father. And I want to ask you, so a lot of people, before we go deeper into your research, a lot of people that connect with me, a lot of people that ask me questions from the podcast and things like that, they're always looking for signs that their loved one is around them. What signs have you had that make you know that's my father? I know that's my father.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the signs is they've come up without me looking for them.
Brilliant. Amen.
Yeah. But I mean, there's been multiple signs, like the dreams. I've had multiple dreams. I've had people. I have another friend. He's like a grandfather to me, actually, and we always joke it with him. Because he's Greek Orthodox, but my fiance and I, we joke with him and say like he's a medium, because he's very attuned to spirits.
Right.
And he was at our baptisms, and he was like I know that your dad was here. Like, he was here right now. Like, I could feel his presence. And so the signs are there, but I wasn't looking for them.
That's important to know, actually. Yeah.
I would say that, because I would say that.
And anybody who's listening, you've heard me say a lot of the times, because so many people write to me all the time. I just had a woman recently, she's not having any signs. She lost her daughter, and it's because they're looking for them. The signs open our heart, and the signs, they make us aware. The minute we look, we can't find. The minute we stop looking, it becomes part of us, and we find it. So you've found massive meaning. What is it that you want to do with this meaning and purpose that you have found now?
Yeah. Well, that's a big question.
I know. Well, I'm not going to ask.
So not exclusive to the research. That's the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the research is just, the way I see it, the research is your stepping stone.
Yeah. For me, I think it comes down to serving people more, and I think the more that I have a platform, the more I want people to realize the truth.
Brilliant. And what's the truth to you? Oh God, that's another huge question.
Yeah, I mean, the truth to me is Jesus Christ. And
good for you.
Yeah, he says, like, I'm the way, I'm the truth, I'm the life. Nobody can get to the Father except through me. And that
suffer little children who come unto me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah. And I think that's my answer to the question.
I love that. It's like a Reformed Jew, or a former Jewish. It's crazy. So let's talk a bit more about this research. Let's talk about how the research is going to go, how people can get involved in you, and really what it is that you're trying to ask. What is the biggest question that you have in your research?
Yeah. Well, so my research question, right? So the actual question with like the academic jargon, right? Because like any research is going to have these puffed up words that make it impossible to understand unless you are in the bureaucracy that is academia. But basically what my question boils down to is, like, why is it that people who experience a close loss of, it could be a family member, it could be a close friend, why do they come to flourish after they've lost a loved one? And why is that? And what is it about their lives? And this is the research. This is not exclusive to, it's not exclusive to anybody. I interviewed a Muslim yesterday. I'm talking to another medium soon, hopefully. Talking to
we need to get that date in the calendar. Yes, we'll arrange that. Actually, when we're finished here, we'll get the date in.
Talking to, it's not exclusive to anybody. So it's really to look at, like, what are the common threads of these people's lived experiences that have allowed them to do that. And so that's basically what it boils down to.
Do you find it interesting, Jason, that some people find this meaning, purpose, that you use the word flourishing, that they go on and serve in a greater way, but others are in such turmoil and such shock that they can't even face living another day?
Sorry, what was your question? Is it surprising?
Do you find it interesting when you look at the polarities? Someone who flourishes, someone who's gone through profound loss, and finds purpose and meaning in the loss. And yet there's the opposite. There's a polar opposite where people just can't seem to function.
Yeah.
They can't seem to get forward in life. They trap themselves in this crisis that they've created.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really easy to get stuck in the second, you know. I think that's almost that's the natural response that us humans have to this most of the time, you know, 90% of the time. And I think to surrender, you know, to surrender your control of the situation it's not really the natural thing to do in a lot of ways, you know. In a lot of ways it's or at least I can only speak from my own experience, you know. In my experience, I didn't really question why this was happening to me, you know, because I was really into the Stoics at the time. I was like, all right, this is it, you know, this is the test. But
Marcus Aurelius, we shall not be moved.
Yeah, but I was very much, but at the same time, that philosophy allowed me to not feel sorry for myself, but at the same time, it didn't allow me the space to feel my emotions. And so I think we need to, my goal with the research is to give these people's lived experience a platform so people who are searching can see what it is. Like, what is it about these people's lives that have allowed them to live fruitfully and have a meaningful life in spite of this? Because if I'm someone and I just lost somebody, I'm looking for an answer, you know? Mm-hmm. And look, is this research the truth, the end all, the be all? No, but it's a door, it's a gate, you know? And it allows people to ask another question.
I think as well, it allows you to look at and finding the meaning. Like, you found meaning and you found purpose. It's probably also brought you closer to your father even more.
Yeah.
Because you get to understand it more and you get to learn from this experience, knowing that he's still alive, knowing that he's still on the, you know, he's on the other side and you will see him. It changes your relationship with yourself. It changes your whole ontology. It changes your relationship with everybody around you. But I guess it doesn't change your relationship with your father. It strengthens it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you think that's something that other people can learn from to find meaning and purpose in their grief?
Yeah. I think a big part too is also forgiveness. You know, if there's a loved one or somebody that has passed away and we're holding on to things, you know, that is only limiting our ability to live our life moving forward. And I think that's a really important thing that needs to be done in the appropriate time. And I mean, it's something that I had to do. You know, there were things that I was holding on from my dad even after he passed. And it's something that we need to make an active practice of practicing forgiveness. And it's not just like, oh, I forgive him, now it's done, you know, but it's like, it's an active practice for me at least, like asking God for help, like, help me to forgive this. Like, I don't want to hold on to this. And so I think that's been really helpful for me too.
Yeah, I have a theory on forgiveness. I often say to people, you don't have to forgive anyone. They don't have to forgive you. That's an illusion. What you have to forgive is the judgment that you place upon it, because it's the judgment of the thing that causes you the suffering. And so the way you judge it is the way that is what you create your prison, and you create your suffering. And if you even look back to what Jesus said, I mean, I don't want to get into religion, but it is about the judgment and letting go of judgment, because that's what creates the prison inside of us. I want to ask you.
That's an interesting perspective too, and I agree with that. And I think that it's because, like, when we're not forgiving people, we're holding on to something, and
the way we judge it.
Yeah, we're judging them. Yeah. Like, if I'm holding on to something, I'm judging that person. Oh, they did this one thing to me that one time, and now forever I will hold on to that. But it's like we carry that.
And you know what? It's not that you're judging them. It's that you're making the judgment is what's causing you the suffering. You say they did something wrong to me,
Yeah.
and am I judging them? No, you're judging the energy. You're judging the thing that's causing you the to suffer. It's causing you to say that I'm judging.
Yeah.
Whereas if we let go of the judgment, then that doesn't become, there's no connection to it. And my camera has just zoomed in. Oh, technology.
Added
But it
dramatic
is an
effect.
interesting concept.
Yeah.
Because people don't see it that way. They say they think there's a law that they have to forgive. Or even, do you have to forgive yourself? No. You have to let go of the judgment, because it's you thinking that you have to forgive yourself is that judgment that's causing you the suffering.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing is to let go of judgment. Easier said than done. What do you think then that and this is a big question as well. And I always say there's a lot of people that are like, is my loved one's happy on the other side? What do they want me to do? What do you feel that your father would want? You know, if you had the opportunity to speak to him now, what would he want for you moving forward?
I think to not worry as much. I think to not worry as much and to let that worry get in the way of doing what I'm meant to do, and just having more faith and just trusting that it'll work out, you know? So I think that's one. And I think two, not to take it so seriously, you know?
Do you know what I love, Jason? This is really interesting. I've asked that question to a lot of people, and not once have I ever heard the response that my loved one would want me to make sure I have a new car, or my loved one would want to make sure that I get this job and I get this money and I get that. Never. Yeah. The question is always and we often respond without even any conscious thought to that. There's a subconscious thing that comes up, and we speak the truth. What would our loved ones want? It's never really connected in the material. It's always connected in the spiritual, or what serves us, or what serves humanity.
Yeah.
I find that really, really interesting. Jason, what are you hoping to achieve with this research?
Hoping to achieve, man, I think I just want to do it like right and well, you know? I want to do it right and well, and I want to also to bear witness to the participants that I have, you know, and to really honor their experience and present it as it is, and really to negate my own bias as much as I can, you know, because people can say, "Oh, I have no bias," but it's like, of course we're gonna have bias, you know, and to be
I'm terrible. I've got bias all over me.
Yeah, we all do, you know, and so I think to be able to be aware of that as we do this research, and I think that's really all I can do in my hands, and then from there, whatever will be done,
will
be done.
Tell people who you're looking for, how they can connect with you, and what they can expect
for
your research.
Okay, yeah,
who you're looking for, what they will expect, and how they can connect with you.
So right now, I only have 1 or 2 spots left, but I'm looking for individuals who experienced the loss of a parent or a close friend between the ages of 18 and 25. And having been more than 2 years, as well as that individual also needs to identify as flourishing now. So that's the participants that I'm recruiting.
Explain flourishing, because a lot of people won't understand that. They'll understand meaning and purpose, but let's explain flourishing a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I describe flourishing as, look, there's a scientific definition, but I think to simplify it, it's basically, is your life more fulfilling and purposeful now than before your loss? That's pretty much what it is, right? There's components to what it means to flourish, like meaning's a big part of it, close relationships is a part of it. There's an actual Harvard measure that they're using now, but that's really what it means at its core.
And somebody who registers to be involved in this research, what can they expect? How will this research take place for them?
So you can find let's see, I'm posting it on, the only place I have it is on LinkedIn. So my name's Jason Tifford on LinkedIn, but
we'll get you on the Holistic Network so you can put a page up and you can give it to people.
Awesome. And yeah, just a 60 to 90 minute interview and a short questionnaire. And that's pretty much all that's included.
Awesome. So yeah, you can get him on LinkedIn. We'll put the link below these show notes. Also, I'll get Jason as well on the Holistic Network, especially with him doing his grief work as well. I think it's phenomenal. Jason, thank you for being my guest today. I'm going to ask you one final question, and I ask people an end question about what would they like to teach other people. But I think what's important for you is the experiences that you've had in your youth. You're so young, you've got your whole freaking life ahead of you, right? And I'm amazed at what you've achieved so far. What would you want to teach or leave someone at your age, 25, who might be going through something like this? What would you like to say to them now?
I think get into a community where you feel like you can let your walls down and not pretend to be somebody else, and give yourself the space to feel what you feel, and don't try to numb it with anything. Don't try to numb it with drugs or alcohol or porn or anything, and just be with it and be with people that are supportive. And it's okay to lean on people. And that's all.
I love it. Jason, thank you so much for being with me today. I'm going to tell you something that might even shock you a little bit. You mentioned something. So people always ask about signs. How do you get signs from loved ones? And even me as a medium, I still want to hear from my loved ones. I still look for signs like anybody else. I'm no different. You're very blessed that you've dreamt about your father. I have never dreamt about my father, and which is really strange. I've had other dreams, and I've had prophetic dreams. But my wife is also a medium. We also give each other, we connect, and we're very evidential. So we don't just say things willy-nilly. And I lost someone very, very, as you know, I had a lot of losses last year, but someone very close to me that was like a father figure. And he came through and gave a message not only 2 days ago to say that I would know that it is him because I would hear drums, or I would hear the mention of drums. And today you mentioned that your father played the drums. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, I just got my sign, and this is how we're not looking for it. This is how things like this happen. In this conversation, I had a sign from the afterlife that I was told a couple of days ago that would come, and I didn't look for it. So that for me is beautiful. I want to thank your father for bringing through that for me.
Thank you for
and I want to thank you, Jason, for being my guest, and for I'll have you back. I definitely want to have you back to talk more about your work as a doula. Thank you for sharing smiles and laughs about your father and everything else. And I hope to speak to you very soon. I'm going to turn this bloody bleeper off as it's keeping going. I did put it down front, but we went over, so that doesn't matter. I wish you all the very best with your research, and also with your next stages in your life. And I hope that you serve many, many, many people. I think what you've done is amazing. I take my hat off to you. The very fact that your young age, that you've sat with so many people that are getting ready to cross over, it's very humbling, and it's a great blessing. And it's a great blessing for me to share this time with you, and for you to share your experiences with my listeners and my audience as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, please connect. If you can't get on and you're not on LinkedIn, you can connect with me and I'll get you in touch with Jason. If you want to be part of this research, then please do. You don't know that your help in this research could open up someone's heart, could sow a seed of transformation in their life. Just remember, life is not the end. We continue, and don't look for the signs. Let the signs come to you. God bless. Hi. Thank you for joining me here today. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast if you are interested in anything that I have to teach, if you want to learn more. Make sure you ask questions below in the comments and I'll make sure to answer them. Come back regularly because I teach many different subjects to do with grief, spiritual development, and spiritual crisis. So make sure subscribe below and I'll see you in the next one.